I jolted awake to the sound of relentless pounding on my door. Urgent, frantic, the kind that makes you wonder if the house is ablaze or if someone's finally come to drag you to the underworld. Half asleep, still tangled in my blanket, I stumbled to the front door and flung it open. Standing there was Lisa, the human equivalent of a throbbing headache, armed with a clipboard in one hand and her phone in the other. Her mouth was already moving faster than my brain could catch up. "You're in violation," she declared, her voice sharp enough to slice through metal. I rubbed my eyes. "Good morning to you too, Lisa. What am I violating exactly?" Her lips tightened into a thin line as she pointed a perfectly manicured finger at my driveway. "This." I followed her gaze, half expecting to see something wild, like a crater or a gang of raccoons setting up shop. But no, it was just my ordinary concrete driveway, my car parked right where it belonged. "This is a pedestrian walking path," she stated, as if that made any sense at all. I stared at her, waiting for her to crack a smile, but she didn't. "Lisa, it's my driveway." Her face turned to stone. "Not according to HOA regulations. The association has designated this as an unofficial pedestrian pathway for community use." I let out a laugh, thinking she might be trying out some bizarre stand-up routine, but her scowl didn't budge. "You can't be serious. My driveway is on my property, legally mine." Lisa flipped through her clipboard like she was unveiling sacred commandments. Article 14, subsection B of the Neighborhood Guidelines states that any open space leading to a shared street can be deemed a community pathway if it's necessary for pedestrian convenience. "Lisa," I said, dragging out her name, "this is my driveway. It leads to my garage. For my car." She sniffed, peering down at me like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "The HOA board has decided it's more practical as a walking path. Homeowners are encouraged to use street parking." My head felt like it might burst. I checked the city records when I bought this place. "This driveway is mine, not public property." Lisa flashed a smug, tight-lipped smile. "HOA rules supersede your personal preferences." And there it was, a blatant, ridiculous power trip. She didn't actually believe my driveway was a sidewalk. She was doing this because she could. For a few days, I held on to hope that reason might kick in. It didn't. First, one neighbor strolled across my driveway like it was a nature trail. Then another. By the weekend, it was a full-on parade of entitled residents treating it like their personal highway. A guy in a tracksuit started jogging across it every morning. A woman with a stroller parked herself in the middle to scroll through her phone, ignoring my car inches away. Someone even set up a tiny lemonade stand at the edge, like it was a legit sidewalk gig. I tried parking my car smack in the center to block them, but within hours, Lisa was back, waving a fine in my face. "Obstructing a pedestrian pathway," she recited, shaking her head like I'd betrayed humanity itself. "That's a $200 violation." I snatched the paper, laughing in disbelief. "You can't fine me for parking on my own driveway." She smirked. "Oh, but I can." That's when it clicked. This wasn't stopping. Lisa had claimed my driveway as her fiefdom, and she'd torch logic itself before admitting defeat. Fine. If she wanted a pedestrian pathway, I'd give her one she'd never forget. That night, I sat on my porch, watching the absurd procession continue. A guy in a sweatband power walked like he was prepping for the Olympics. A woman in yoga pants cradled a tiny dog while texting. Two kids on scooters nearly took out a guy balancing a tray of iced coffee. It was chaos, and Lisa was reveling in it. I could see her through her window, sipping tea like a villain overseeing her minions. I needed a plan, something epic enough to rattle her clipboard empire to its core. Then it hit me. Wet cement. The kind that takes hours to dry. The kind that would make anyone stepping onto my driveway regret every choice they'd ever made. The next day, I checked city permits. As the homeowner, I could redo my driveway whenever I wanted, as long as it met basic safety codes. No HOA bylaw required Lisa's approval. A perfect loophole, my secret weapon. That night, I rented a cement mixer, gathered supplies, and waited until the neighborhood went quiet. Under cover of darkness, I poured thick, gray cement over every inch of the so-called walking path. I tossed a few cones around the edges to make it look semi-official, though I secretly hoped someone would ignore them. I had a hunch who my first victim would be. Morning came, and the first shriek told me it worked. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and saw a sight so perfect I nearly choked. Lisa was stuck knee-deep in the wet cement, her shoes lost to the sludge, her legs sinking like she'd been swallowed by quicksand. Her face was pure terror as she flailed, sinking deeper with every move. A crowd gathered, some stifling laughter, others filming. One guy muttered, "I can't believe this is happening," while another sipped coffee like it was premium entertainment. I sauntered over, feigning worry. "Oh no, Lisa, didn't you see the signs?" Her face turned a volcanic shade of red. This is sabotage," she screeched. I gestured to the cement. "No, this is me improving my driveway, fully within my homeowner rights." Her eyes darted around for allies, but even her usual HOA cronies weren't jumping to her rescue. One actually snickered. She fumbled for her phone to call reinforcements, but in her panic, it slipped from her hand and sank into the cement. The crowd's gasps were symphonic. "Someone get me out," she barked, but no one budged. Finally, a neighbor who'd clearly been waiting for this day deadpanned. "Shouldn't we wait till it dries? Make the pathway safe for everyone." The laughter nearly knocked me over. Lisa was livid. "I'll have you all fined," she spat, but her grip on power was slipping. Eventually, someone helped her out, but by then, she was caked in cement up to her knees, her pristine outfit trashed. She stomped off without a word, though I knew she'd be back. She wasn't one to surrender. Sure enough, the next day, she returned with a new fine, her face still speckled with dried cement. "This is an unauthorized obstruction," she hissed, thrusting the paper at me. "You're violating HOA safety standards." I took it, tore it in half right in front of her, and grinned. "Lisa, here's the funny thing. I checked with the city. This is 100% legal." Her eye twitched. "The HOA will hear about this." I shrugged. "They already have. Front row seats." She turned to see neighbors watching from their porches, barely hiding their amusement. Her jaw clenched so hard I thought she'd shatter a tooth. With no comeback, she stormed off, slamming her clipboard against her leg like a defeated general. But Lisa wasn't finished. Humiliation only fueled her. The next morning, an official-looking HOA letter appeared in my mailbox, dripping with aggression. It claimed my cemented driveway violated community aesthetic standards and demanded its immediate removal, signed by Lisa, HOA president. I chuckled. She'd overplayed her hand. The HOA could suggest changes, but legally, they couldn't force me. She'd banked on intimidation, but I wasn't scared of her clipboard. Instead of replying, I doubled down. I had my driveway repaved with an even glossier coat of cement, then added a sign: "Private property, not a walking path. Test the cement at your own risk." That broke her. Next time I saw her, she was pacing the sidewalk like a caged animal, muttering and clutching her clipboard until her knuckles whitened. She was plotting, but I'd boxed her in. She couldn't find me again, couldn't force changes, and she'd lost the neighborhood's respect. That night, I woke to scraping metal and an engine rumbling. Peering out, I laughed. Lisa had hired a construction crew with a jackhammer. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and stepped outside. She flashed a fake smile. "Good evening. The HOA's removing your non-compliant driveway. You're going to destroy my property without permission?" I asked, filming. She clasped her hands. "It's not your property if it disrupts neighborhood harmony." I turned to the crew. "You know this is trespassing and property damage, right? You'll be liable." The supervisor frowned. "Wait, we have homeowner approval, right?" Lisa snapped. "I'm the HOA president. That's enough." He shook his head. "That's not how this works." I raised an eyebrow. "Should I call the cops?" The crew backed off, packing up as Lisa's plan collapsed. She stood there, fuming, then marched away without a word. The next morning, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Word of Lisa's stunt had spread, and the board was done with her reign. She tried spinning it, claiming I'd endangered safety, but neighbors unloaded years of grievances: fines for slightly tall grass, wrong mailbox colors, decorations up too long. The board voted her out unanimously. Lisa sulked for days, then vanished. A moving truck appeared, and she was gone by afternoon. The neighborhood bloomed again. Wind chimes, late parties, even a purple mailbox stayed. I savored my win with a beer on my porch, my pristine driveway gleaming, sign still standing. A neighbor nodded. "Best thing to ever happen here." I raised my bottle. "Peace at last."